Now, a number of police forces in England are giving grants to Christian charities who work with vulnerable groups in their areas. It's currently being done in 8 parts of the country. The police say they're helping the charities deal with people who simply need advice and support so that officers don't have to divert resources from fighting crime. Senior officers deny the grants amount to policing on the cheap, as Chichi Azundu reports.
Essex Police, what's your emergency? Hello, if you've got an emergency and you need the police, could you press the number on the keypad for me to let me know you're there?
I am here, but you lot can't help me. I'm just listening to you so I can waste time out here.
52 times. That's how many 999 calls the guy who missed his train made in one evening.
You've missed the last train home.
Yeah, but I don't get it. Like the other
Those types of calls, many of which come from people who have mental health issues or are intoxicated, clog up the call centres, which prevent real emergencies getting through and takes police away from dealing with crime.
Have I got this right? You're ringing to complain because your neighbours have left dirty clothes outside your house?
Yes, please.
Let me interrupt you there. Number one, not a police matter. Number two, definitely not an emergency.
Police numbers have dropped in many areas of the UK, and it's meant forces have to rethink how they're spending their cash.
Most police want to deal with criminals, not people going through crisis. Sometimes policing isn't even the right response for minor crime.
Anything to prevent has got to be good and the way forward. However, we would like to have more officers.
Essex Police say per head of the population, they are the least funded force in the country, covering some of the most deprived parts of the UK. They also say that 80% of the calls that they get to their emergency control room are not what they would consider to be police business.
What we're seeing is increasingly mental health services, social services, children's services are increasingly fractured, and there are gaps emerging. And I think public safety is much more about how we come together.
And the coming together for some forces means using the help of charities.
Some of those initiatives involve domestic abuse advocates who come in, who understand the experiences of people going through domestic abuse crisis or victimhood. But we also have work with other voluntary groups who come in and do work with young people or nighttime economy, and they fill some of those gaps that my officers would like to do, but because they're so thinly stretched, just don't have the time and capacity to do so.
Step Forward, the Cinnamon Network, who hope to relieve that stretch. Essex Police, through their Police Crime Commissioner's Office, have paid the Christian charity £23,000 to fund a number of projects to help pick up the slack from their officers. Each charity doesn't get a huge cut of the budget, maybe a few £1,000s, just to get them started, have leadership training, get some help and support, things like that. Then the church has to match how much the police put in. And it's hoped within a year that charity will become self-funding. Now, everyone who takes part does it on a voluntary basis, and in order to access the grant, the charities have to agree to serve those in need, no matter their faith or background.
How do I know what the experience of an Ethiopian woman living in Thurrock is like today? I don't. But working with voluntary groups who can help us to what that understanding is, working with domestic violence advocates who look at the welfare and the journey away from domestic abuse, that's what makes a real difference. And police officers can't do everything all the time. You know, they try and be education professionals, social service specialists, sexual offence. You know, they can't be experts, so we need to work more effectively with people who know what's going on in local communities.
Father, we want to thank you for giving us the Lord Jesus Christ, who himself showed us how to love one another.
Another Christian charity that gets £2,000 from the police is Street Pastors.
And immediately we've come out of the office, come down into the town, and already interacted with a homeless guy who we just checked. How was he doing? Was he warm enough? Has he got facilities? And has he had a drink or something to eat today? He seemed in good spirits. So we spent a bit of time, and we've also caught up a little bit with how's he getting on with some of the processes that he's trying to do with the council. So he's trying to get himself back on the housing ladder.
Okay, bye-bye.
We buy lollipops to give out, we buy bottles of water and flip-flops. So they're our 3 main tools that we carry. So we carry water to introduce ourselves to people sometimes, but in that introduction and that rehydration, it actually helps some incidents where alcohol is an issue. Lollipops, we find actually if you're just going to go up into a confrontational situation, offer a lollipop, and then it just distracts just for a couple of minutes. And then we also like to give ladies that are walking around that have taken off their shoes, going to be treading in all sorts of horrible things, we like to give them flip-flops. So we give all this away free.
Okay, Louise, take care, alright? Stay safe, girls.
For the people that we kick out, we don't know what happens to them after, like being too drunk and everything. Like, you don't know whether they've gone home or not. But it's nice to know that there's people walking about making sure that if they have not made it home, that they're going to get home, get the help that they need and everything like that, really. So yeah, it's nice, and it does make a big difference.
Why faith groups in particular?
I think actually the straightforward answer to that is because they want to. I mean, what we're doing here is we are enabling people who want to do good in their community to do it in a structured way in collaboration with the police service, so that, you know, we're actually trying to achieve goals that are going to make a difference to the nighttime economy or to young people.
In Sussex, where charities received money, police say they've seen a fall in antisocial behaviour and violent crime on Friday and Saturday nights. So far, 8 police forces have signed up, but bosses are hoping at least half of all the forces across the UK will join within 5 years.
Policing resources, like the resources of every public agency, are more limited than ever. And actually, one of the ways of making the money they have go further is by building collaborations and partnerships with others. So actually, by working with churches, the police are seeing, creating a partner that leverages the money they do have to make an even bigger difference for the strength and the safety of communities.
Out of a local church like this here in Harrogate comes Baby Basics. It's one of around 8 projects that's been awarded a grant by North Yorkshire's Chief Constable. It's got about £2,000 and its aim is simple. It's to help new mums and dads. Do you think mums and dads really struggle when it comes to a newborn and having to get the basics, but they don't want to say? So they might steal a baby grow or formula or nappies just because they can't think of where else to go.
I think it gets to a point when you've got to provide for your baby and you don't have enough stuff, you might have to do that. It's happened. I know that Harrogate's not known for things like that, but I know quite a few mums who struggle to that they can struggle to that point where it's just too much for them and they don't know where else to go.
We've been able to tackle root problems, things that may have escalated into something else. So we've been able to provide these things that maybe some families wouldn't have been able to get because of financial difficulties or for whatever reason. So we've been able to tackle the causes before consequences get too bad.
So Mum's lost one of her children. She's just realised that she's only got 3 instead of 4.
Back in Essex, volunteers are being used to help with the workload of police community support officers who focus on community issues and crime prevention, but their numbers had been cut by the hundreds.
So should you come across a 3-year-old, we would be obliged. Thank you.
Without looking, the child aborted the bus and the bus pulled away. Then Mum realised that one of the children was missing, so found safe. It's been returned to Mum, so Mum and child are all happy.
For police special constables Ian Grant and Debbie Edwards, such is the demand on their time, they can't even walk a beat as much as they'd like to. And something that used to be a routine part of their job, advising neighbours about being safe after a spate of burglaries, has largely been passed on to volunteer groups.
Hello, sorry to disturb you. Was you aware one of your neighbours had a break-in? Some would argue it's sad when something like the police authority has to rely on volunteers.
But unfortunately, that's the way forward.
Is it the way forward? It's like, say, these days, a food bank's a good thing. Well, they shouldn't be there to... They shouldn't be there in the first place if things were right, should they?
Chief constables say it's not policing on the cheap. It's a necessity for their officers to get on and deal with serious crime.
We've got 2 choices. We can stop we can just become one of those old-fashioned police forces that just respond to crime. Just turn up when it's all gone wrong. Don't provide support to domestic abuse victims. Don't try and understand what's going on with young people who are out too late, have drunk too much. That's not the type of policing we want in Britain. What we want is a police force that says, with a small investment, with volunteers who want to do that little bit more, or bring that insight from their profession, we can do so much more.
Lots of